doing their best to get to those individuals as quickly as they can.
Mr. Albaugh, thank you very much for your time. Good luck.
Thank you, Paula.
And no one is more hopeful than the mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani, that more victims will be found inside the rubble. Cell phone contact has been made, or at least was made in the wee hours of the morning, between two victims and their family members. The mayor will be holding a news conference in just about 15 minutes. It is very tough to schedule things on time right now, given the enormity of what this city is trying to grasp right now. We will bring that news conference to you live. But right now we're going to go to Bob Franken, who joins us from the Pentagon. Bob, there were reports this morning that sources were telling CNN that they believe as many as 800 people may have died in the crash yesterday, the attack on the Pentagon.
Well, that was one local fire chief. The Pentagon officials, in fact, say that that figure is probably way higher than it's going to be, but they acknowledge that it could be in the hundreds. As a matter of fact, they've already recovered some bodies. We haven't been told how many. Police say that they're blocking one roadway around here because a temporary mortuary has been set up there. We're told that even with the fire still smoldering, some search teams went in overnight, that there are search dogs who are here. They're going to determine when they can go in again. Of course, there have been flames that have erupted sporadically, and that has slowed things down. Now, it is shortly after 8 o'clock in the morning in Washington, and at 8 o'clock, part of the Pentagon opened up for work. It was very important to the Defense Secretary that he show the world that this building, in spite of the catastrophe that occurred yesterday, in spite of that the Pentagon would be up for business. But only about half of it could be open because there were concerns that the structural damage that might have occurred in the other parts of the building would make things too difficult and too dangerous for the other people. But at 8 o'clock, the Pentagon opened up. It was very important, officials said, that the press office be open so reporters could locate there. CNN has a team there where we, of course, cover what's going on out here. And what's going on out here is the search, the very grim search to find out just how many people became victims of this terrorist act. Paula?
Bob, is there any new information about the flight that went down outside of Pittsburgh and what the ultimate target was supposed to have been?
Well, it's more speculation than information. There was some talk early on, according to briefings that were held for congressional leaders, according to Capitol Hill sources, some talk that the target was Camp David, but that's really given short shrift. There is other belief, though, that either the White House or more likely the U.S. Capitol was going to be a target. What they don't know is why the plane did not, in fact, continue. That's one of the mysteries that's going to have to be sorted out. Of course, there's so many, that is just one.
All right, Bob, one last question for you before we move on. Secretary of State Powell was on the air with me a short while ago and seemed to indicate that he was upset. That might not be the right word, but that Orrin Hatch is saying that U.S. intelligence actually intercepted communication between some almost Osama bin Laden supporters discussing the attacks. How sensitive of an issue is that there this morning?
Well, there, of course, is going to be a real reappraisal as things go on. Another way to put that will be second-guessing. People are going to look back and say, why didn't we act on X information or Y information? And apparently there were indicators out there. We've talked to newspaper editors, we being CNN, around the world about the warnings that had been issued. Of course, there have been so many warnings over time by various terrorist organizations that sometimes it's difficult for intelligence officials to figure out which ones were real. And, of course, they sadly now realize this one was very tragically real.
The Secretary of State made it quite clear, though, that he will never talk to us about this intercepted material.
Well,
you expect that to change?
Oh, you have a situation where the intercepted material is done by the National Security Agency. That is a hypersensitive intelligence organization. As a matter of fact, it has tried to enforce a couple of times when there's been reporting about its activities, tried to enforce criminal prosecution for doing that very thing. So it probably will never be directly divulged by a member of government, but these things do have a way of becoming publicly known, particularly since there is bound to be such a heated debate over what should have happened.
All right, Bob, I wasn't able to catch the last part of what you had to say, but I wonder, do you think the Pentagon folks there are concerned that with folks that have the stature of Senator Orrin Hatch talking about these intercepted communications, that there will be more political fallout?
Oh, there's bound to be political fallout, but of course it's too early for that right now. The nation is caught up in the tragedy and the immediate work that has to be done in the aftermath of that. I should point out also that there is probably a very, very heightened alert today to make sure that somehow there is not some second-day effort to try and further plunge the United States into despair. But as this goes on, there are going to be any number of debates about what should have happened, what could have happened to possibly avoid this. Debates that are going to be viewed by some as second-guessing and by others as a real cry to change not only the way that our intelligence apparatus works, but the way that our communication and travel systems work.
All right, Bob Franken, thanks so much for that update. We are back here in New York City, where I'm going to quickly show you a shot of the World Financial Center. There appears to be smoke billowing from either the roof or the top part of the building. We have absolutely no information as to what is going on, but that is very close to what used to be the World Trade Center area. We're going to move on now to Gary Tuchman, who joins us once again with an update on the rescue operations now underway. Gary, anything new?
Well, first things first, I just want to tell you that we cannot see the World Financial Center from our vantage point here, so I can't tell you anything more about that smoke that you see there. All we see is the holes where the World Trade Center buildings used to stand, and that's all we could see from our vantage point. And as I'm talking to you, I'm taking a walk right now, and I'm on the corner of Church and Chambers Streets, and I'm looking at a subway station, and the subway station says on it, Chambers Street / World Trade Center. That's the name of the stop. It's just hard to believe that the World Trade Center buildings no longer stand when you look at that stop that tens of thousands of people literally use every day. And in the very same corner, it's chilling. We see 5 Army National Guard members standing there. They're sitting there with their helmets and their green fatigues, and that's a sight we never thought we would see in the United States, in New York City, anywhere in this country. It almost looks like a state of siege as they stand there right now at attention, looking out for anything suspicious. We've reported to you, and we're going to continue to report that survivors have been found. 6 firefighters have been found in these early morning hours. 1 policeman's been found from the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. The Port Authority, by the way, is the department that runs the airports, Kennedy, LaGuardia, and Newark, runs the bus terminal here in New York City, and also was the landlords of the World Trade Center buildings. That police officer who was found today was seriously burned, we are told. In addition, 2 police officers were found yesterday. Now, the governor of the state of New York, George Pataki, has been at the scene for many hours. As a matter of fact, he used to have an office in the World Trade Center building. He very well may have been in that building if the office was still there. However, the governor's office had moved out of that building. He spends most of his time in Albany, the state capital. But Governor Pataki did talk to reporters early this morning.
All right, Gary, I was expecting to hear from Governor Pataki right there. He joined us at the top of the broadcast at 7 o'clock this morning and sort of walked us through the paces of what we can expect to happen throughout the day. And he sort of reinforced what Joe Albaugh just told us, the head of FEMA, that 8 special urban rescue teams will be sent here to assist the New York Metro trying to rescue those folks. Give us your understanding of what actually has to take place to get to potential survivors, the digging process, what they have to weed through, what they have to be afraid of.
I mean, what you have here, Paula, are 2 110-story buildings and a 47-story building. That was the 7 World Trade Center building. That's something I have to emphasize that I think a lot of people didn't realize, even people in New York City, when they think of the World Trade Center, they thought of these 2 beautiful, tall buildings. It's a complex of many buildings, and 7 World Trade Center is considered a very small building because it was next to these 2 huge buildings, but it was 47 stories tall. So you have all the concrete and steel and wreckage from more than 267 stories of buildings that are on the ground, and some of the wreckage is piled 10 feet tall. So you're talking about people who are buried under a lot of rubble, tons of rubble. But what the authorities are telling us is they are saying there are voids, so-called voids, that are holes where wreckage may have fallen, but these people may be below the wreckage in holes and pits. And that's why they're hopeful they will indeed find more survivors. As of now, we're reporting that 9 survivors have been found, but we're also told that they have been able to contact 2 additional people, and one of them is a 50-year-old man. The other man they're not describing, but they are saying that there are at least 2 more survivors, so they are very hopeful they'll be able to find more in these so-called voids.
How many folks would you say are involved in rescue operations at the moment?
It's hard to tell, Paul. We're not able to be right up to the site, although I am able to see the people in the background right now. And I can tell you that there are hundreds of people here. We did know that Mayor Giuliani, Rudy Giuliani, and ironically, they were supposed to have yesterday the primary here for the new mayor of this city yesterday. They canceled that primary, and it turns out the current mayor was in the news all day yesterday. But Mayor Giuliani said they had all the help they need. So although it doesn't seem like an immense amount to us with the amount of people we've seen going in and out, they are saying that they have all the help they need right now down there. But it looks like hundreds of people to us, but not perhaps the thousands that you might expect.
Gary, as you've been talking, we've been trying to get more information. We're going to go to the shot very quickly, the World Financial Center. This is a large, large business center directly across the street from what used to be the Twin Towers, the World Trade Center. There does appear to be a lot of smoke coming from the top floors of the building. I know you're going to continue to effort some information on this as well. We wish we could confirm for you what started this smoke. We can't at this point, but we promise you we will continue to keep you updated on that throughout the morning.
Paula, can I tell you one thing? With me right now, and this is unorthodox, but this is important for us to get the information out. I have a gentleman standing with me. He's with the Nassau County Police Emergency Service Unit. Nassau County is in Long Island. It's one of the 2 counties in Long Island. He was part of the team that pulled one of the survivors out. He was above the 80th floor in one of the World Trade Center towers. And I want to talk to him really quick. Can you tell me your name, sir?
Sergeant Robert Bressingham.
Sergeant, tell me what you saw when you were at the scene.
Well, there was a concerted effort by everybody involved with the fire department, police department, emergency rescue units, and we were focusing on attempting to get one police officer that we had located. He had used his cell phone, and he was able to get rescuers to his location, which was deep in some rubble, but he was able to coordinate it because he was very knowledgeable of the building. He was a Port Authority police sergeant. Once he was located, he was about waist-high in debris and in a very, very tight quarters. Only one officer was able to crawl in at a time and was able to dig him out real slowly.
How is his condition right now?
From what I understand, at the scene, he was conscious and alert, and I'm sure that he has injuries, but I don't believe there are any life-threatening injuries.
Where in the rubble or the building was this?
He was in the courtyard, which was in between the 2 towers from the collapse. I don't know which building it was before the collapse.
Is there any updated information, sir, about the number of survivors that have been found there?
No, there's no updated numbers. There's no compilation of numbers right now.
The final question for you, sir, how psychologically are you handling this, being at the scene, being in the tower? How are you handling it?
Well, the rescue community is a very tight community. We know a lot of people that didn't make it. We were very happy to be able to help somebody that did make it. So we're real happy that we were able to put our efforts together and at least make it successful with one rescue so far at this point.
Sergeant, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. You can tell there are people from not just New York City, because Nassau County, as I said, is in Long Island. There are people from jurisdictions all over the New York area right now helping out in this tragedy. Paula?
Gary, as I heard you do this interview and we continue to look up at some of these more close-up pictures of the rubble, it is an absolute miracle that anybody has been found alive in this rubble.
There's no question about it, Paula, and that's the sad fact of this, is that when this is all said and done, and it may take days, it may take weeks, that we're going to probably find that 99% of the people who they're looking for right now are not alive. So we're very thankful for the people they do find alive, but we're not expecting to hear any stories like, we can't believe the number of people we found alive. It's not a very likely scenario that it's going to be a great number of people.
And once again, Gary, just quickly recap for us the overall number of folks have been rescued. It's 9 altogether. Break that down for us.
Right. Authorities are telling us that in the early morning hours, since midnight Eastern time, 6 New York City firefighters have been rescued and 1 Port Authority police officer. And apparently the police officer, the sergeant we just talked to, was telling us about, that police officer and that's the good news. That's something we didn't know. We were told he had serious burns. The sergeant is telling us that he does not believe the burns are life-threatening. So that is good news. We also know that last night 2 additional police officers were also rescued. So that's a total of 9 people that authorities have confirmed to us have been rescued. In addition, 2 other people are now being searched